takes tremendous amount of courage and strength to pick up, leave all your belongings and your friends and relatives and flee to another country. That's who they are. They arrive here as refugees, and I want to honor their courage and their resilience. I also want, on behalf of the City of Toronto and other levels of government, to apologize the way they've been treated on the streets.
Yes.
And the lack of dignity
Yes.
that they experience.
Yes.
There's absolutely no excuses whatsoever to be at a new country, lost, both physically, spiritually, and materially. Some literally lost their belonging, their identification. That is critical for them to apply for refugee status. And that's just not acceptable, and not being able to find shelter. This is the 13th working day for me to become as the new mayor of this city. But even before I became the mayor, I met with communities, African communities, refugees community, people that experience working with homeless, and we said to each other, we will continue to be united in our effort. Because when you're homeless, it doesn't matter whether you're refugees or you're not, whether you've been in Canada for many years. In fact, you could be indigenous people that are from this country of ours. It does not matter. And we were able, thankfully, receive some short-term funding from the federal and the provincial government, a very small amount. You asked me very clearly, how come there was no pickup? And I think I know. Because the funding is short-term, and I just looked at the number, City Council, based on how much money we have, approved 250 shelter space, hotel space. Yes, hotels are expensive, but our shelters are full. We have no choice but to rent hotels, and they're expensive. And guess what? We're full again. We're at 3,300 refugees that we have. And it amounts to about, the dollar amount that we are given is about the amount that we can spend at this time of the year. So what do? We have to have long-term solution. You heard earlier something called COP. It's the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. The City of Toronto have never contributed a penny because it's the Canada-Ontario Housing Benefit. But at last council, my first council, I was able to persuade city councillors to say, we are going to put in some money ourselves in order to bring in money from the provincial government. And we were able to get 7 million from the provincial government because we're putting in 7 million. Traditionally, the federal government put in 2/3 of that, and they haven't done it yet. So we're asking the federal government to please, this is a tripartite agreement, join us, partner with us. What they also have to do is to come up with a long-term plan. This is not a reception center. This is a church. It's a church where people pray, get married, have funerals, the gym, summer programs for kids, basketball, Friday night drop-in for teenagers, all of that canceled because they are stepping up. We're incredibly grateful for the churches, the African Canadian community, the Black community, and all the generous donors through the Toronto.ca donation. Yes, thank you. Thank you. People are opening up their hearts. They're opening up their wallets. We're asking the federal government that you also need to do the same. It cannot be a short-term fix. We need a long-term solution. That small amount of money is not enough. And they have to take that responsibility. A refugee's claimant is a refugee. No matter whether you call them asylum seeker, they are a refugee claimant. And so we have a housing crisis. You heard the City of Toronto declare homelessness an emergency. We do have a housing crisis. And in the middle of a housing crisis, we also have these very brave, courageous men and women and others that are coming to Canada because of violence, persecution, based on race, class, gender, sexual orientation, based on all types of problems. And I wish the ministers, the new ministers, can come and experience the love we have here. They need to see the mattresses, the outpouring of support, but also the quiet desperation that are being faced by these refugees claimants. So I want them to come and join me and visit. Do you think it's a good idea asking them that? Because this Canada, as of yesterday, has a new housing minister, Mark Miller, yeah? And it has a new housing, there was the immigration minister, okay? And our new housing minister is Sean Fraser, who was the immigration minister, right? So I encouraged them, I asked them, come join with all of us, come and visit, do it soon, because this situation cannot continue. They need their churches back. The young people need their churches back, right?
Yes.
So we are here together saying, this is a place of faith, this is a place of love, this is also a place of hope. Let's make sure we continue to have faith and hope and love and be able to treat refugees claimant coming to Canada with dignity and shelter and housing. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mayor Chow and media for being here. You know, this really has been the hard work of Dominion Church International and Revival Time Tabernacle. Our community, they have stepped in to cook, clean. You know, I think of MVP Michael Kersner, I think of Global Medic, Benai Granith, the Jewish community that has rallied against with us, and so we wanted to make sure we mention them. Our kitchen staff, they cook over 600 meals a day. One of our head chefs is here, Ricardo, and if it had not been for those who were volunteering and stepping into the plate, I don't know where we would be. So we just wanted to make sure that we highlighted that. Are there any questions? From the media.
Minister first. Sorry, I'm minister. Oh, I wish you guys are minister. The media first, and then I'll take it from the community.
The 250 hotel spaces are already full. So
Yep.
That's not enough. The federal government has already rejected your request for more money. What's next?
Well, what we've heard from the rejection was a global ask that stemmed from last year. It was the money that we spend on public transit because we have to transport essential workers. That's the COVID deficit that we have. Yes, we have $1 billion, well, $1.5 billion budget deficit. Putting that aside, I was just showing my friends here that there's no money left because we're broke. City of Toronto is broke. It's not the first time you heard it. They didn't want to deal with that deficit. Fine. Okay, that's okay. We'll figure it out. But we have people daily arriving to this country. And they are arriving at Pearson, they're arriving to Toronto, to the greater Toronto area. And we need the federal government to take their responsibility seriously and help us welcome them. We used to have Ontario Welcome House, one-stop shop, gone. Yes, I know, some of you may remember, they're gone. So Red Cross are willing to step in. I met with the Canadian Red Cross representative. They are willing to step in and have their first contact and do what they do best, okay? Because it is an emergency. But they need the funding.
How much more money do you need for this specific situation to address the refugee claimants? How many more spaces?
One, we need immediate reception center, not at a church, but at a place near the airport, so that all the refugees can find the services, shelters, all in one place. Okay, that's what everybody said we need, a reception center, right? Okay, we need that. We need the federal government to help us set that up. Red Cross is ready, right? And all the service agencies are ready. Everybody's ready. They just need to step up and create a space and allow us to do it. Okay, number one. Number two, cost share with us. They call it COP. This is Canadian. It's Canada Ontario Housing Benefit. It's rent subsidy. Because you go into a shelter, you're stuck there. How are you going to move out? You don't have enough money because you don't have your work permit yet. You can't work. And you're stuck in a shelter. To get the shelter as a temporary place, you need a place where you could rent a lot cheaper than a shelter. So it's a top-up. So it's the Canadian Ontario Housing Benefit. Please join with the provincial and the municipal government and do that package. That's second. Number three, we said we need at least 160 million, if not 200 million, in order to have more long-term solutions, right? The shelter, because the shelters are full. So we got a piece of it. We need more. If we have more, thank you. If we have more, then you know what we can do? We can begin to not use hotels. Hotels are expensive. They're saying, hey, what about turning from a community center? How about dividing the space? They have a lot of really creative solutions, very grassroots solutions that is cheaper, more effective, better for the community. But in order for us to get there, we're just right now plugging the holes because we have no space. We have to have some open space in shelters so that we can work with everyone, whether it's a new space or retrofitting new space, all of them. I've heard several solutions here, and they need us to do it. But right now we're too busy putting hotels, putting people in hotels.
Do you have a sense of how many people are arriving every day? Do you have a sense of the numbers that are arriving?
How many are arriving every day?
Per month, or what the influx is? Like what?
Hey, we're not the immigration department. We have no idea how many refugees are arriving at the door. They know, okay? We don't know. All we do is we can tell you there are 300 at least homeless people showing up saying, give us some shelter. We are turning them away. At least half of them are refugees. You look right now, it's 150 refugees we are turning away every night. So, but as to how many, what's the projection? We're not the immigration department. We don't know.
Mayor, can we talk about Chrystia Freeland's comments about saying that there isn't any more funding, that Toronto needs to kind of look at it? Are those comments, would you say, would those comments be rooted in anti-blackness, considering how this federal government has looked at Ukrainian refugees, has looked at different issues and been there, where even the minister coming to meet some of them at airports, nobody from the government has been here. Do you believe that this is rooted in blackness?
Well, inviting them to come and meet with everyone, okay? They asked the city to, I'm good, thank you. They're asking the city to use our reserve funds. But hang on a second. If there's a big flood, and later on if there's a snowstorm, if some of the housing, we have a huge housing stock, if the roof is leaking, we need these reserve funds in order to make sure if there's a crisis, we need to deal with it, right? So we can't use the reserve fund. That's not a prudent way to go. So putting aside what the finance minister said, we have new ministers, Minister of Housing, Minister of Immigration, Mark Miller, and Sean Fraser, please come and visit.
Sure.
Mayor Chow,
Mayor Chow,
the federal government says that they've already given a lot of money to Toronto, that the province has a surplus in their budget, and you should be going to Queen's Park for help with this issue. What's your response to that?
I am going to Queen's Park. That is how we got that share, that small share of the rent supplement money. Okay, we will continue to go to Queen's Park and ask for funding. But last I looked, refugees issue is a federal government issue. There is a IRPA, okay, Immigration Refugees Law. I happen to be used to be the immigration critic when I was a member of parliament. So I know what is a federal responsibility constitutionally. Refugees and immigration is a federal issue. And yes, there is some provincial responsibility for investors and that kind, but it's very small, not refugees. Refugees is purely federal.
My understanding is that you spend.
Pastor Gina Smith said
Wait, can I? Let's get the media first. Okay, yeah, hang on a second.
Media questions. Status of Toronto sanctuary city.
It is.
Okay.
Don't ask, just serve.
Yeah. So we don't ask and just serve. We
I
actually
know.
turn people away.
I've changed that.
But do we need an investigation in this as a violation of sanctuary city policy?
Well, I'll leave it for the ombudsperson. Okay, the City of Toronto has an ombudsperson that dealt with the encampment issue, and I'm sure that that it could be his purview to do so. Okay, thank you
There's
for
a
that
lot
question.
of money
Madam Mayor,
being put
yeah,
this
sorry.
issue.
One more.
If we're going to the community, we're going to start with this.
Yeah, I'm speaking on behalf of the African community. I am speaking on behalf of the African. I am the president of the African Canadian Social Development Council, the umbrella organization for 110 different African community agencies.
Right.
Well, to begin with, this is not the first time that we Africans are facing this crisis here in Toronto. 2017, 2018, there were influx of African refugees. Majority of them Nigerians. We contacted the city of Toronto that we wanted to work with them. They turned us away. They end up by leaving some on the street and dumping some in some hotels. Some went through a lot of medical issues. Now we want a personal commitment from you and from the council that this will be the very last time that any group of people, we don't care where they come from, but this shameful thing should never happen again in the city of Toronto. That's one. Two, the African community is willing to work with the city so that we can absorb our brothers and sisters fast into the community. We don't want them in the hotels and in the shelters. They didn't come here to live in shelters and hotels. They came here to make a life, for themselves. And the faster we work with them, the cheaper it will be also for you guys also. You save money. You will save money. I have to be honest with you. We want to work with the city, but the city doesn't want to work with us. The red tapes are just too much, too many, too much. So, my name is Kabu Asante. I'll give you my card,
Okay.
please.
Now let me answer Mr. Kabu's name and question. I wasn't a mayor in 2017 or 2018. As I said, I'm a new mayor.
Oh,
13 days.
well, I didn't know that.
Okay, I'm a new mayor. I've only been here for 13 days, okay? So give me time. But those of you that know me know that I do not, my principle is I see housing as a human rights. I see it as the essential rights. And I myself is an immigrant in this country, and I totally understand the need to shelter, support, and take good care of others. And that is my pledge to everyone here, and whether it's Judith or Eddie and others, I will work closely with all of you. And I've already had 2 fairly lengthy meetings with everyone, and we'll continue to do so we could work together, because that's when we are stronger.
Yes.
You have more questions? One more question.
Mr. Jane and Finn.
Yeah.
Listen, my voice doesn't boom as it used to.
I could hear you.
So I'm glad you can hear. First of all, I want to thank you for coming down here and being among this group of people to give your own personal and physical support. You've been demonstrating that along the way, and I think you'll continue to do very well by staying with the problem that is.
Here.
Yes, this is a problem that the federal government should be addressing, and obviously they're not doing too great a job in handling this matter.
Your question is to me, my dear.
Well, I know it is, but we need to bring them into the conversation because this is what you want, right?
Yeah.
And this community is absolutely behind you, Mayor Chow, to ensure that the federal government plays its part. We cannot stand by and have African people cross the border and come in line and sleeping on the streets. It's happened, but what do we do to make sure that they're provided for at the moment? So I can't say thank you enough to the Revival Time Tabernacle for stepping forward. They have done something remarkable here, and I've known this church from the time it was literally built, and Pastor Audley James. And I want to thank this lady for continuing the same footsteps of our family, of our parent, and ensuring that they reach out and to serve the people that are in great need, and we will do everything in the Jane Finch area to support them and what they're doing. I encourage you to do the same. The community, the press need to step forward and support this mayor, support the major issues that is happening here to ensure that the people here are able to survive in a country that offers them great promise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Mayor Chow.
Zanina.
Here.
Conde.
Yes, right here.
Zanina
Selena! Oh, God.
Lights back on. Zanina.
Well, we come from the same beginnings. But I have to say that borrowing from different budget areas is not new. I mean, when you're filled up and you overspent in one, it is not unusual at all in government to borrow from it. And I know that the city is broke. But we are the largest city in Ontario. And where the hell is the premier? We are a very productive province in Canada. And where the hell is the prime minister? I'm being very direct. These are my people. And I don't see anybody else living on the street and having to be rescued by churches and left there. Olivia, I know you feel that. I know you want to do the right thing. But I hesitate when you talk about there has to be funds because there may be an emergency like a flood, like a fire. And I've been seeing for months that those people who have had to leave homes because of floods, the municipal buildings have been open, the schools have been open. Do you know how much easier it would be to use a school that has an auditorium, that has a space, that has a gym, that has a cafeteria? We need this. We need this, and we're willing to work with you. But we're willing to work with you to push the premier. We're willing to work with you to push the prime minister, because I am a citizen of this country. And I am hoping that all of these people will be too.